I've seen this work like in e-commerce is much more powerful because you have so many products, so many categories, etc. And at one point it gets like, okay, this has nothing to do with what you're selling. And it goes through thousands of search terms and it just flags the ones that are irrelevant or outliers.
The sort of the largest segment, which is MCPs, which I feel like is a relatively new term. I'm sure that won't be familiar with what that means, what that stands for. So maybe let's start there. What is an MCP?
Yeah. Well, disclaimer up front. My co-founder built this, right? And I talked with him about it, and and I can tell you a bit about the story behind it. I mostly want to show a bit what it can do, because I guess that's also what most of the people may want to do that listening to this podcast. The MCP, this is my wording, probably not 100% accurate. It's just an easy way. Look, you want to check. You're using Claude or ChatGPT, and you want it to analyze your Google Ads data, for example, right? How are you going to make that happen? That's pretty tough. There needs to be a connection to the API, so for example, the Google Ads API, which in itself is kind of a pain to set up. And this is what my co-founder wrote. Like, what we've done here is there are MCPs out there, but those require a lot of hoops to jump through, basically, before you can even start using it, because Google wants you to set up a cloud project, have developer tokens, the whole authentication needs to be taken care of. I would say 90+% of people's professionals will be like, okay, never mind, I give up. This is I don't build software. I just want to get insights or things like that. So we had already another free tool we didn't talk about today, but it's pretty niche. Jackal.app, or Jackal, stands for Google Ads Query Language. It's actually a tool we built internally and just decided to make it available for free publicly. All it does is you copy paste a query there for the API. You can actually test it on live accounts if it returns the data you need it to return. That's our tools like us usually start with building certain checks or things like that. So what we just do for you, and then we'll jump to the actual usage. This is the only MCP that just skips the whole pain that you see here of creating an API connection with Google Ads, because you can rely on the Jackal app that we already have there, and it generates. There's some steps here, but long story short, it generates a token for you, and that token you can, for example, paste it into Claude Desktop, and then you're done. And then Claude's intelligence will actually just start doing the queries to the Google Ads API and giving you, I think it's almost magical feedback or results or whatever you want. And I have some examples that I want to share shortly. But yeah, we'll put the link in the show notes, I guess, right? Or if you just Google Ads MCP, you'll probably find it by TrueClicks. But it's a GitHub link where you just follow the steps. And everyone can do this. It'll take you 5 minutes. And let's assume you're going to use Claude Desktop to do the actual analysis. So shall we try it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Or you have questions up front?
I mean, I think it's, as someone who is not super technical, that it makes sense that in order to access that Google Ads API query language, you have to have a level of development knowledge. And so you've built Jackal, which helps you kind of simplify that and simplify the process of connecting the API to Claude. So that makes sense. So that's very cool. I guess I'm just keen to understand how much of Claude or the LLMs are a paid search expert enough, because we talked initially about the data connection. That makes sense, but the interpretation. So I think that's where I'm really keen to.
Yeah. And we're pretty surprised. So what you're going to see next is mostly Claude's kind of smartness, so to speak. We just make it easy to connect. Basically, that's what the MCP does. And I would say get it while it's free, because of course we're also thinking okay, how could this maybe turn into a more robust paid solution? But for now, we just want to let people play with it and give us feedback. And by the way, we don't store or log the things you do here, right? It's just a connection. You get a token. Yeah. Some people have some, worries about what we could do with the data or something. There's not much we can do. We have no interest there. This is not supposed to be TrueClicks is the product where we really go deep on the data and have our own database. This is just easy for you to connect. So I will ask.
Just
go
just
ahead.
a point on that. I guess the only concern people might have is that because this is an LLM, that they will get that data. So
that's between you and the LLM. But I would look up the terms and I'm sure they have some info on that. My experience is that if you pay for it, which is usually about $20 a month, you're not being used for the training models and things like that. If you use the free version, maybe you are. I feel like that's often the trade-off. But that should be easy to look up if they are going to use that. Yeah. Okay. So because I don't want to expose our customers' data, right? I can't, and people can see the screen. So I'm going to use our tiny of campaigns that we have running for TrueClicks, which is just our brand name and some competitor campaigns, but just to give you a feel for what I can do. But imagine you have like big shopping PMX campaigns and much more data to crunch and much more powerful to do. So for my TrueClicks own ads account, that's what it's called, could you compare the last 30 days with the previous 30 days performance and draw some conclusions? Well, actually, it doesn't mind about typos. I do, but think about it. Okay, the most of the part, maybe you'll edit this out. Most of the part is waiting for it. It will actually live run the queries, right? So get accounts. Find your TrueClicks account, knows the ID. These are the Gecko queries, right? So it's people that do a lot of scripting or API calls. They should feel familiar with this. But Claude thinks of how to do this, right? We didn't teach Claude how to do this. I would love to take that credit, but we didn't. And just learn. Okay, so it's going to get the data. That's not that hard, right? You don't need AI to fetch data. We already do that for years with just kind of built-in queries. But then the analysis part and the human text that goes along with it is the interesting part. Okay, analyzing data.
Yes, it's just cool just to watch it go through the process of actually doing.
Okay, this should be faster, but I can blame Claude now. So it's
yeah.
And for people listening, they're like, well, this is boring. Well, yeah, this is something you have to see. But definitely when you're back at your computer, just go to the link, install Claude Desktop. I guarantee you will have lots of fun playing around with it. Okay, it's where is it getting stuck? It does a lot of calculations. Wow.
Oh, it's still going.
Yeah, it's still going. Yeah, okay. And by the way, it can also create graphs and things like that, and it's like interactive ones. So that you hover, you're over. Yeah, it's going to do it now, I think. And you can share that as a URL, right? You can share it with a colleague, right? And it will just. And this is a very simple thing I'm doing now, right? It's building an interactive artifact, as it calls it. And then you see the publish link there at the top, where it would a button where when it's done and you're happy with the result. You can make a link out of it and share that with colleagues or clients or whatever. Even though if you're working at an agency, you probably want to have it more like branded for your agency, but still.
Yep.
Okay, this is a lot of work on the people are. But I do think this is kind of magical, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. I was so glad to watch.
I just asked one simple question. And it starts to think on its own. The funny thing is whenever it's done, it always asks like a pretty useful follow-up thing it could do. And so I'm done with this. Would you want me to dive deeper into this and this or give you some recommendation? There it is. Okay, so he wins, right? So now, I mean, this is not, you don't necessarily need AI to do some of this, right? But it understands it, right? So CTR, it says, better relevance, better ROAS, less ad spend, trade-offs, right? You had this many fewer impressions and fewer clicks, but you achieve more conversions, great. So some recommendations, skill the winners, maintain quality. It's a bit generic, to be honest, but let's look at, here's this Right. This is the chart it created, right? So it has this nice compared last 3 days versus the 30 days before. It groups the data, volume metrics, efficiency metrics. I didn't ask it to do it that way, right? It just thought of it itself. It has just these fun little emojis like major improvements, key changes, recommendations, and then like a bottom line thing. This is actually the least interesting part, just comparing data. Like, okay, I think one more fun thing is, okay, investigate my, what's the campaign called? Competitor comparison campaign, and share your top recommendations to improve performance. I kind of forgot the name of that campaign, so I'm hoping it will be smart enough to figure it out. Yeah, go ahead.
Just while it does that, can you just remind us what the initial prompt was? Because I'm just kind of curious to go back to that to then compare with.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it was. Let's just go there. For this account, so first give the account, right? So you probably have an MCC with lots of accounts. So some people forget to do that, but first name the account, just the exact name of the account. So I said, for this account, could you compare the last 30 days with the previous 30 days performance and draw some conclusions? That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Then
it's not like super detailed, really, and it's given you quite a lot.
So this is kind of fun, right? So I forgot the name of that campaign. I said competitive comparison campaign. I know it's not the name. I forgot it. But actually now I found it. Competitor alternatives key countries. That's actually the name of the campaign ID so and so much. So that's actually the right campaign. So that's what's kind of nice. You don't have to be perfect all the time. It will just be smart enough to know what you mean, not just typos. So now it's going to really dive into one campaign. And I just asked it to think of ways to improve it. And now it's going to just, again, on its own, going to say, okay, let's look at the keywords, let's look at the ads. It's going to just fetch all that data. Let's look at the search terms, right? So just runs through all these different reports, and then it's going to nicely, from these different sources, create a little like story. Sometimes it makes little errors, yeah, and then it says, "Oh, let's fix that." But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's cool. One thing I've actually struggled to pull, this might just be the scripting interface, is actually change history, because sometimes it's nice to be able to say, okay, well, that's the performance impact, but what are the changes that were potentially led to that, just cause and effect? I think you can get that from the API, so that should be accessible here.
You can, it gets, okay, I haven't tested that with this solution, but what I know about the change history, it's limited to 10,000 rows. And so you don't want to do this in an account with like more than 10,000 changes a month, which some accounts have, because there is just a lot of automatic changes. And then I think it will time out or something, or we'll just not be able to see all the changes. But if you have, like, I would say less than 10,000 changes a month, it should be able to handle that. But yeah, I'm not that sure it will give you interesting insights, because the data is a bit messy. How Google gives it through the API, it's like, it doesn't look as nice as you see it in the interface. We have some features in TrueClicks based on the change history, and we had to kind of okay, this is taking quite a while, but it's still much faster than doing this all by your own. And that's definitely, and the final thing I want to do is just give you already like what's coming up, which I think one of the most fun things to do with this tool. Okay, right? So I said, look at this campaign, top 5 recommendations, negative ROAS, right? Although this campaign is more based on CPA, but okay, we don't really track the ROAS correctly. Extreme high cost for conversion, while the other campaigns is a branded campaign. So yeah, it's going to be, obviously, so it doesn't know that context, right? Like, hey, it's comparing now basically a non-branded campaign to a branded campaign. So of course it's going to be, low quality scores is true. But again, Claude understands that 5-6 quality score is a low quality score, right? It makes an estimate of how much cost this would, the low quality score is costing you, right? And it gives some recommendations. So make the quality score better, reallocate the budget, expand, add some of these words. It gives some fun, suggestions for expansion, tests some headlines, right? Which is, add some negatives. We have most of them, right? But it really understands like how to optimize a campaign and looks at the data and use some best practices. And then you get some nice, charts and all that stuff. So it's pretty impactful. And even like a weekly planner, right? Like week 1, you should do this. Week 2, you should do that. Week 3 and 4, you should do this. Pretty nice, right? Okay.
That's incredible.
In this same campaign, which search terms are irrelevant and based on the last 90 days, right? Let's give it some. What I like about this is really a tough thing to crack without AI. Like in a more like structured approach. Because I said irrelevant, right? And you need to understand what is relevant, right? And what is not relevant, and within the context of a campaign or an ad group. And that's pretty tough. You cannot really rule-based build that. I mean, there's things like Liebenstein distance, which can help a bit, or let's just show you like, okay, that just in looking at the characters, it's very different. But what AIs like this do, it understands the meaning of these words and what you're trying to do, and then finds the ones that are not matching that, and explains also why. So it's getting the search terms now.
I have a bit of a controversial question. Right, go ahead. Just because this feels like it's this or a version of this is going to be the future of how we do this work. And I'm wondering if, like today, what is this the equivalent of? Is it the equivalent of someone who's been in the industry 12 months, 6 months, like a fairly junior paid search expert? I'm curious if there's a way to compare what that's sort of equivalent of this.
I think the equivalent, even if you're super experienced, this would just cost you time.
Yeah.
So I think a junior person could skip the whole how to do this. I'm not sure if they should, right? Like how to really go to the search terms report, download it, and find outliers. But I think for this example, it's mostly time, right? You with a bit of experience, you probably could do this. With a lot of experience, you of course you could also do this. But it would. This is a small campaign, right? But it would just take you a lot of time, I think. And it's and you still need a human, I think, for all these things. Most of those things we looked at today are pretty spot on, but sometimes they will say stupid things. Right? I did a test before this call, and it said something like, "Whoa, the branded campaign is doing great. You should double your budget for your branded campaign." Yeah, thanks. If people would search twice as much, I would definitely do that. But so it doesn't really get that. That doesn't make sense sometimes. Right? So don't be. And this is where I think it's humans will always have a place where there's just a level of like industry knowledge or things like that, or experience that just needs to be there on top of it, and look at just double checking everything. And then maybe 80% can stay pretty much as it is, but it's like 20% of what you call hallucination or just not getting it or whatever. You need to take it out, but that's much faster than starting from scratch with Excel and downloading stuff and looking row by row. And this again, this is taking a bit long because I think now it thinks I want nice charts every time, but I don't. So the first time I tested this, I didn't ask for charts. It was much faster. It just gave me like a list, just text. But now, because I think I asked for before this call, I asked for some charts, and now I just think, oh, this guy wants charts for everything, and nice design, but I don't, right? So maybe I should tell that in my summary, like skip the look. It looks very cool, right, on the right, but it doesn't need to have this. Right. So this is my competitor alternative campaign. So we have a campaign where we want to show ads if people are looking for alternatives, right? Like an optimized alternative, for example. And it gets it that we are also showing for a search term an analysis versus optimizer, right? And it gets that we're not one of these two, right? We're TrueClicks. And that's why it's suggested as a irrelevant search term, right? And same goes for the other ones, right? So that is, right? And it says here. And then it's based on last 90 days data, yada, yada. These are all for the same reason, to be honest. But then it even gives me a copy paste ready list to paste into my negative list, right? Add these exact match or phrase match. And yeah, pretty handy, right? And what I especially like is kind of summarizing, aggregating the spend, right? This would save me 90 euros for 90 days, right? If I would actually do this. And block this many impressions. I've seen this work like in e-commerce is much more powerful because you have so many products, so many categories, etc. And at one point it gets like, okay, this has nothing to do with what you're selling, and it goes through thousands of search terms, and it just flags the ones that are irrelevant or outliers.
Yep.
So yeah, we could do much more, but for today, I think this is just a nice first feel for what it can do.
I mean,
I re-released this, I think, like 6 weeks ago or so, or 2 months, max 2 months ago. So this is pretty new. I think most of your listeners and people out there haven't played with this yet, aren't aware of this. We're not promoting it very heavily, right? People are figuring it out on their own usually. But I'm hoping this will help, because I think this is cooler than. I think what some people have done maybe in the past is uploading a CSV to ChatGPT, right? So they first download data from Google Ads, right? And that also works pretty well, right? And then upload it to ChatGPT and then ask questions about it. That also works, but this is just way more direct, right? You keep the connection and the thing with the CSV solution. You would have to be smart about which data am I going to give the LLM, and is it enough to make the right analysis? Here, I don't have to think about that. I just need to ask it what I want, and it will try to figure out what data it needs, and you can keep fine tuning it. So yeah,
that's very cool. I think the things that I mean, it's all amazing, but two things in particular. The point you made around it being able to infer what you're talking about. So when you come in with a campaign name, it being able to make that connection, and then this keyword example where, again, you've not been super prescriptive. You've just said irrelevant, and then it's interpreted what irrelevant means in the context of that data and pulled out stuff that is pretty spot on. And the fact that it's done all that without any kind of, you've not made a custom GPT or a gem. If we're talking about Gemini, it's all just already in there. One question: Can you instruct it to make changes, or is this a read only?
No, it's read only.
Okay. But what will happen if you give it change?
Okay. You see at the end, right? It gives me that copy paste list. So it basically already says like, go ahead and copy paste. Can you add these negatives for me? I'm curious what it will say, but it probably will say it can. But no, this is really a read-only type of thing, which hopefully makes people feel safe, right? If they have like a team plus start playing with this, that no one accidentally makes like huge changes in bulk using them because they entered the wrong prompt or something. I'm guessing in the future it will be right. So yeah, I think that's also right. I basically that's the access level they have, right? I don't have added capabilities, right? But then of course, again, it tells me exactly, like it knows the Google Ads interface. I'm not sure how accurate this is, but or even so, you could also you could also download the Google Ads editor, right? Or etc. So it cannot, but I kind of like continuously like summarizing, even these little details, like a stopwatch emoji, like this would take you 2 to 3 minutes and you would save 90 euros over the next 90 days. It's kind of fun, right?
Yeah, I think that's one development I found in the LLMs generally over the last few months is just that follow-up question is so good, and the relevance and quality is really high, and like you say, that then just helps you continue to use it and get more value out of it.
Yep. So yeah, this is really really fun to play around with, and you should be able to okay, so Claude is even though we pay for this version, is coming out, but people should realize that it's relatively easy to set up. Again, the link will be in your show notes. It's a GitHub link. Follow the steps, probably 5 to 10 minutes, and you can get started with this. Just always tell it which account you want to do software, or which campaign, even if it's not account level, if it's a campaign level thing, which sometimes makes more sense because right, like brand versus non-brand, you don't want to necessarily analyze that together. So, but yeah, those are just common best practices.